Hey, let's catch up with some Spurs news and notes. And what will the Spurs do at the draft?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Spurs on Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for KENS 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Hope everybody's having a great Thursday. And subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcast. Google Play. What else you got? iTunes, you got Spotify, you got the KENS 5 Plus app, you got YouTube. Yeah, subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcast. So what are we talking about today? Go over some quick Spurs news and notes just to catch you up with some things. It is the offseason, everybody, so maybe you're not tuned into what's going on with the Spurs right now. And then we're going to bring in our guest, Raul Flores of the AP Sports Radio. He and I are going to be discussing what the Spurs are going to do at the NBA draft now that we know where they'll be picking and the 4 picks they got, first and second rounders. And then wrap it up with some Locked On Spurs fan comments you guys are leaving at the YouTube page. But some quick Spurs news and notes before we bring in our guest. And I guess the biggest news that y'all probably know about, but in case you don't, Wemby did not make any of the 3 All-NBA teams. Not on the first team and not on the third team. He did pick up 2 second-place votes and 5 third-place votes, but it just wasn't enough. Ultimately, he did not make any of the squads. Now, not too surprising, I guess. I didn't expect him to make the first team. Kind of thought maybe an outside shot to make the second team. I thought the best shot was the third team. He did not make any of them at all. Now, who is on those teams? Well, you have Luka Doncic, Giannis, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Joker, Jokic, and Jason Tatum. Tough to argue with that. Second team, again, tough to argue. Jalen Brunson, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards. I don't know how, but Kawhi Leonard's on the second team. He made it. And then the third team, Booker, Curry, Halliburton, LeBron James, Domantas Sabonis. Tough competition for Wemby. We're going to probably get into this a little bit more in tomorrow's episode of Locked On Spurs, but does Wemby have a case? Is there a part of him that maybe, do y'all think that maybe he was snubbed at minimum for the third team? We'll talk about that in the next episode of Locked On Spurs tomorrow. But yeah, did not make it. It would have been great, though, if he made it. I really believed he had a shot, at least making minimum third. First was a long shot, but third, maybe. But he had the numbers. They ultimately came down to a record. But again, we'll talk about that in tomorrow's episode of Locked On Spurs. In other Spurs news, guard Devontae Graham will be a coach at the 2024 Basketball Without Borders in Spain. He'll be joining Colin Sexton of the Utah Jazz. The Spurs have benefited from players that have come out of Basketball Without Borders. Mamu's come out of it. Charles Bassey's come out of it. So really good pipeline for some potential talent down the road, whether it's Spurs or the NBA. But Devontae Graham, he'll be putting on his coaching hat in Spain, I believe this month, at the end of this month. So he'll be a coach out there. Who knows? Maybe it might spark the coaching bug in him. But that's good to know that he's contributing to the game over with Basketball Without Borders. And finally, Front Office Sports has named the Frost Bank Center among the best venues of 2024. Now, keep in mind, it's venues, not just about the Spurs games. That's part of it. But, of course, the concerts, the events, conventions that go there. They highlighted, the staff that works there, the convenience, cashless stuff. Just basically the overall fan experience. Pretty good considering many think that the Frost Bank Center overall is a little outdated, but Spurs really, really keep up with the latest amenities, and they implement that in the arena. Obviously, I cover the games. I have a media seat there. And let me tell you, the staff is always friendly, very helpful. They'll guide people to their seats. They'll walk them to their seats. Just friendly atmosphere. And again, congratulations to the Spurs and SSNE and the Frost Bank Center. Yeah. Best venue, among the best venues in 2024. That's high accolades. I recently was there for a concert. Same thing, just when they set up the concert configuration, it's again a good of. It's easy to get in. For those who've never been into the Frost Bank Center, they have like a swipe, so like kind of like ticketless thing and easy. I mean, you're in line like that quick. You get to your seat fast. So congratulations to the Frost Bank Center. hopefully there'll be a lot more excitement next year when the Spurs resume play. All right, there's your quick Spurs news and notes. When we get back, we're going to bring in Raul Flores, AP Sports Radios, and we're going to be discussing what the Spurs are going to do at the draft, and then get into your comments you're all leaving at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. First, I want to talk about LinkedIn Talent Solutions. When you're hiring for a small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn is not just another job board. LinkedIn is a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals that you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses wear so many hats and might not have the time or the resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make that process easier. They got a new feature that helps you write job descriptions and making the process easier, even quicker and faster. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Hey, I want to talk about Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee. Go there right now. If you're in San Antonio at 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive, open every single day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. They got it all. Lattes, check. Cold brews, check. Dairy alternatives, check. House coffees, like their signature Muslinger coffee drink, check. Even mini donuts, they got it all. That menu is just extensive. Friendly staff. They love supporting the local community, serving San Antonio the best coffee and just drinks in general in the city. And they're a proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs. Those mini donuts sell out fast, so hint, you want to go there ASAP to pick them up. Apparently, they're very delicious. And also, just a heads up, they have their Lightning Bolt series. So basically, that's like an energy drink. But they usually, in the past, they would use Red Bull as part of that drink, but not anymore. They're going to be using Lotus Energy instead of Red Bull. Now, they'll have Red Bull on hand in case you need it, but the default will be Lotus Energy. Well, pretty much Lotus has the same caffeine to Red Bull, but with 7 power plant extracts, gives them flexibility to create new drinks. And again, the default will be Lotus Energy, but Red Bull will be available. It's part of their Lightning Bolt series. It includes the Alien drink. And I think you know who that's named after, right? So combining natural caffeine with powerful blend of 7 power plant extracts, the new and improved Lightning Bolt series will keep you powered up all day. So what more do you need? Go to Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee right now. Follow them on social media at Muslinger SATX. Do that right now. Again, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive, open every 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Go there right now, San Antonio, because life is too short for bland coffee.
Oh, hey, this is Morty Smith and Cheese. You are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia. Cheese.
Well, look who is back, everybody, right here on Locked On Spurs, Mr. Raul Flores. He's with the AP Sports Radio. He's so cool that we gave him 2 @ symbols on his name on the screen. You see it? So you want to follow him on X at RawFlow64. Again, he's so awesome. He gets 2 ats. That was my mistake, everybody. I just forgot to take away one, but you get the point. Make sure to follow him on X. It's a good follow. Really just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the history of the Spurs. Get him going. He'll tell you everything you need to know about how it all started to the Spurs until now. Raul, how you been, man? How's the offseason treating you?
Treating me good. It just, was excited to see where the Spurs ended up with the draft lottery. Couldn't have gone much better. I mean, I think worst case scenario would have been, or best case scenario would have been 3-7. But 4-8 will work, especially in a draft year that is not super rich with talent.
And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. We're going to be asking the question, what are the Spurs going to do in the draft with 4 picks, 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders? We're going to throw a name like Bronny James, maybe. I don't know. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, and then we're going to get into some of your comments. What are y'all talking about over at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page? So let's go ahead and dive into it. So the Spurs have 4 picks, as mentioned, 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, 4-8, 35, 48 in the second round. They're in a good position, as you mentioned. It went well, all things considered. I'm gonna start you off with this. I think the Spurs are going to keep their picks and draft accordingly, unless there's an offer on the table they can't refuse for a team like, for example, Phoenix. Phoenix has no picks till eternity now at all.
Yeah.
So unless
no picks
they offer them
2030.
Yeah, unless they offer him something insane, so he can start maybe a rebuild over there. I don't know, but something tells me, Raul, they're going to keep 4-8 and just draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the way I'm seeing it right now. Is that they're going to stick with the picks that they have, unless, like you said, there's a great offer. And really, the only player, in my opinion, that I'd like to see the Spurs go after and use maybe the 8 and some, because let me take a step back. You look at what the Spurs have between now and 2030, I think, or the next 5 years. They've got 12 first round and 15 second round picks. And the big year, I think, is 2026, when they have something like 6 second round picks. And that's a lot of picks that you're not going to be able to use just because you won't have the roster spots for them unless you start cutting players left and right. But now back to using some of those picks for Darius Garland. I know that there's been some grumblings or some talks about Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. I don't see Donovan Mitchell coming to San Antonio. If Donovan Mitchell ends up anywhere, it's going to be, I think, with the Lakers. And I don't know what the Lakers would, if like I say, if he goes anywhere, I picture him in a Lakers uniform. So the more intriguing player is Darius Garland. You get an established point guard. He had an off year this year. Granted, he had some injuries, but he had an all-star season the year before. Right. And so, if you put together a nice package to bring in Darius Garland, you fix your point guard position almost immediately. Mm-hmm. And you've got a solid backup in Trey Jones.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I just don't see the Spurs making any type of move and just using those picks. Are those picks going to come in and make an immediate impact? That's another question you got to ask.
Yeah, you look at what scouts are talking about this draft. They're saying that it is lukewarm, that it's really not many heavy hitters in it, if anything at all. I mean, you look at some of the projected top 10 picks. These are guys that didn't even play much in their college years. They're coming off the bench.
Right.
So it is lukewarm. But look, if the Spurs can find diamonds in the rough, they certainly can. They've done it before. Their history shows it. And then you're going back to the whole, picks and, what they have this year and moving forward. Something's got to give, because they can't keep all these picks. Eventually, they're going to have to deal something or use them, but pick them from other teams and then do a trade, and that route, because that's just so much. And eventually, these kids are going to want to get paid, down the road. And the Spurs have been a small market team. They pinch pennies over there, and they can't. They can't pull what the Warriors did during their dynasty run, pay all these guys and go way. Unless Raul, you're the historian here. I've never seen the Spurs go extremely over the luxury cap. I mean, just like Warriors territory or Dallas Mavericks territory. So eventually they're gonna have to trade these picks. But we say that the Spurs are likely keep 4-8 and draft accordingly. Wasn't it too long ago that we thought the Spurs would trade away their one of their 2 first-round picks, and they didn't, and that turned into Blake Wesley and Malachi Branham. So their history shows that they just stay put. Raul, why do you think they stay put? Why don't think they're big gamblers or big movers in the draft?
I think that's just Pop's mentality, and it has been for the last 25 years, and he's going to stick to a formula that works. He's got his reasons for doing it, and you're in a smaller market, so you don't want to go over the luxury cap if you can avoid it at all. So you try to remain competitive with what's available to you, and guys like Malachi Branham and Wesley, they're not world shakers. But they're going to fill some roles that you need. on a roster. And if you can improve on those a little bit with some higher draft picks, those guys become expendable and become trade bait. Or, in some cases, you've seen some guys that you really didn't want to see going that, just eventually get cut or waived. And that's just always been for the last, under Popovich's watch, that's just been the MO of how they operate. And they take their chances with the draft picks that they get.
Yeah, I look at this draft, and my gut instinct tells me maybe your best player, your star player will come out like late in the draft or even the second round. I think it's just all over the map. And right now it's projected that Sar, or I can't pronounce his last name, Richache, I think that's how you pronounce it. The two French guys, Richache, they're going to go 1 or 2 in that order. But after that, it's, mean, just what you got, the Spurs can address needs if they want to go that route, but Brian Wright has made it very clear they're going to go with best available. So if that's another big, so be it. If that's another forwards, like all in the ilk of Selhan and Vassell, they're going to go with that route. But if they go point guard, you hear names like Topic and
Dillingham,
Dillingham, stuff like that. Raul, would you, if you're the coach of the Spurs, you're Popovich, would you trust an 18-year-old European player to be your point guard for Wemby in this rebuild? I mean, would you do that?
I think you got to try it out and work him in, kind of like they did with Tony Parker. I mean, within a month and a half into the season, boom, Pop saw what Tony Parker could do, and then Tony is, your starting point guard. And I think they feel him out that way. Now with having the G League, you get an opportunity for those players to develop a little bit better, or a little bit more, get some playing time, get some on court action against other players, rather than 2-3 minute spurts here or there coming off the bench. So I think if you go with one of those point guards, whether it's Topic or if Reed is available or even Dillingham, you work it within the system. Mm-hmm. You're bringing them in and out of Austin as they get some playing time there. And I mean, one of those three would, if Spurs land any one of those three and they really surprise you, what's to say that it's like you say, outside of Sar and Richache, it's a toss up, and even with those two guys, there's no certainty. Mm-hmm. I've seen Richache drop as far as 7 or 8 in some mock drafts. So it'll be interesting, really interesting to see where those players land. And I think that's going to determine what the Spurs do with their pick.
Yeah. I'm right there with you because, let's just say I'm okay with, even if the Spurs were to move down in the draft and acquire more picks, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with them moving up. I mean, or just trading out of the draft completely. I think either way it works because the Spurs are just sitting on a mountain of picks that they got to burn or trade or what have you. So you got to do something with this. You can only hold on to these assets for so long. You have to trade them. You got to move them, and the Spurs.
Yeah, well, I was talking about 2026. So Charlotte, because they finished, their pick was 14 or better. The Spurs couldn't take it. So next year it's the same situation. It's Charlotte's pick, first round pick, but it's got to be outside of the top 14. Right. And if it does fall outside of the top 14, then the Spurs get 2 second round picks in 2026. Since they didn't get in 2024, if they don't get it in 2025, then they get 2 second round picks from Charlotte in 2026, and you're
Right.
looking at the Spurs have their
Yeah.
own in 2026.
Yep.
It's a swap with Atlanta, and Spurs
Mhm.
get the better pick of the two. Then they
Yep.
have their own, and then they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you get 2 of Charlotte's second round picks,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4,
But you're
five,
but you're
6,
proving the point
7.
though. You're making the point though. I mean, they have too much. They got too much.
Way too many picks. So you've got to start converting those picks and multiple picks for some good players. Again, right now, I think the only player that would make sense in a trade that the Spurs might do is Darius Garland. I know you all were talking about it yesterday. Trae Young is not coming to San Antonio. DeJounte Murray is not coming to San Antonio.
No.
Chris Paul, that's a 2-year rent at max. The guy's 38, 39.
Mm-hmm.
And that's putting a Band-Aid on your situation.
And according to a report, he's the biggest a-hole. So
Yeah.
you want that kind of element. I mean, maybe not. Maybe Pop might love that attitude.
Exactly.
But yeah,
Pop and Chris Paul have a good. I know Pop and Chris Paul have a good relationship.
You mentioned Darius Garland, like he's the guy that it's been on my radar, like the Spurs should make a move for. But there's a lot of Spurs fans think that Donovan Mitchell should be the guy as well, because these guys, whether it be Mitchell or even Garland, they check the boxes, don't they, Raul? Veteran, point guard, distributor, create space, can make open shots, and from the 3 line as well, and be paired well with Wemby. So I mean, the thing about it too, if you were to wake up tomorrow morning and you see the Spurs made a deal for Garland, you'd probably be ecstatic. Or if they made a deal for Mitchell, okay, fine, I ain't gonna be mad at that.
No, I'm not gonna be mad. No,
Raul, I just think it just comes down to the asking price, because if Cleveland wants to give the Spurs sticker shock, I'm gonna be like, no way, no. We're like, you want how many picks and how many players off the roster? No.
Well, look what Atlanta did for Atlanta did for DeJounte.
Yeah.
I
don't see the Spurs ever doing something like that in a deal.
No, I mean, I can see them giving a good chunk of those second round picks.
For sure.
And I don't have a problem with that. Yeah, you find some gems in the second round, but how often? Those are few and far between. Manu Ginobili, obviously being probably the best second round pick. And
that's why I think how this draft is going to shake out. I think it's going to be where, oh my God, how did you sleep on this guy? You got him late in the second round, or you got him late in the first round. He was sitting there all the time, and I think that's what's going to happen. Hey, we're not done talking about the Spurs at the draft. When we get back, we're going to continue our chat about this, and then get into your thoughts. What are y'all talking about over at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page? We're joined by Raul Flores of the AP Sports Radio. Make sure to follow him on X twice, because we give him 2 ads at RawFlow64. Make sure you do that right now.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from Cybertron Springs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
This episode of Locked On Spurs is brought to you by BetterHelp. Look, we all can use some time to get things off your chest. That's where BetterHelp comes in. Whether you're dealing with negative things or even positive things that you want to keep on doing in a positive direction, you want to go to BetterHelp right now. We all carry around stressors, big or small, keep them bottled up. It can affect you negatively. Therapy is a safe place to get things off your chest, figure out how to work through whatever is weighing you down. So if you're thinking about therapy, you want to get BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA right now to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
This is Zach Aguilar, the voice of Tanjiro Kamado, and you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Raul Flores. Follow him on X at RawFlow64. By the way, the very dapper looking Raul Flores today. Where'd you get that? Did you get that at Macy's or something?
Yeah, no, man. It's just a regular shirt.
Look at that. Like,
My wife buys my clothes.
I'm always looking like a bum on this with the same blue sweatshirt and the same hat, just different T-shirt
Yeah.
underneath all the time. You know what it is? I'm in off-season mode. That's what it is, Raul. I am totally in off-season mode right now. Again, everybody, make sure to follow my next at RawFlow64. We're not done talking about what the Spurs are going to do at the upcoming NBA draft. And then eventually, in a few minutes, we're going to get into some of your comments as well, everybody. But, we're forgetting the Spurs have 2 second-round picks. And there's a name that's really been in the forefront. I should say shockingly, not surprisingly, because of his last name, Bronny James. It's been a lot of talk about him, and which is odd because he's not a top pick. He's not a top 5. He's not a top 10. He's not a top 15, 20. But here we are because of that last name. There are certain odds makers that are putting out their odds already, and they do have the Spurs among the top 10 teams that could select them because they got those 2 second-round picks and the whole he needs to be in an environment that can help him develop. Well, San Antonio's right there. Geez, what are your thoughts on Bronny James? From the combine, there have been some positive, but it's been more negative.
He's an enigma, man. He's an enigma. It's going to be tough. His name is. I think he's in the news so much because of his name. And he's got a lot of eyes on him. He did well at the combine, or decent at the combine. But who was at the combine? Who are you competing against? You look at him with his health scare that he had at USC, and then he goes and averages 4 points a game. If you're asking me, would the Spurs look at it? They might consider it, but I don't see the Spurs taking a shot on Bronny.
Yeah, no, if this was maybe peak Spurs, dynasty Spurs, maybe I could see that. But they're in the middle of the rebuild right now. The last thing they need is to have
a circus
because LeBron and look, it'd be great for them to raise revenue. That's for sure. Ticket sales, TV, their games being broadcasted left and right, the attention that it'll get. But do they really need that element right now in a rebuild? And I don't think that's good for the Spurs. There you have it. There's our thoughts on the Spurs, what they could do, what they can do. Raul, ultimately, how you feeling about heading to the draft before we get into some Spurs fan comments?
I think Spurs stick to their guns and keep their picks. And, I have it playing out. Let's see, what was my latest? I forgot where I put that. I think, the draft is going to stick with Sarr at number 1. And I think Washington goes with either, because they've got a lot of needs right now. And I think they go with either Shepherd or I think Donovan Clingan moves up the draft. If Clingan pulls into the top 3, then I see Houston going with Shepherd, which drops Ricochet to 4 for the Spurs. And then you can hope that Dillingham falls to 8, just based on team needs. You're going to see. I think Stephon Castle is making some waves, and he's going to move up into the top 10. I think some teams had him like 11, 10, 11, but I think he goes in the middle picks. Dalton Connect, I think. Charlotte takes a chance on him. And if Topic is still around, I think Portland takes a chance on him.
It'll be interesting if Portland takes him because they got Scoot Henderson there.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to do that.
Yeah. And then, I know y'all were talking about Tijan Salon yesterday. Or earlier today, I was watching your show with Rudy, that's a chance pick, man.
That's a sleeper pick. That would be? That would be the Josh Primo pick all over again. Like who?
Yeah.
What? Yeah,
exactly. But I think he's probably one of the most athletic players coming out. If you look at the top 15 players that are being tossed around, and like I said earlier, so many of them are so interchangeable that it becomes more of a need. I think the Spurs definitely have a need at the point.
Yes, they do.
But if they can't meet that need, then yeah, they're going with the best available player that's on the board. And I've seen, like I said, I've seen Reece Shea going as high as number 1 on some mock drafts and as low as number 8 on some.
It's all over the place.
So it's all over the place.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Yeah. I was high on Topic until the knee injury happened again. That worries me a lot about that. The last thing the Spurs need is to burn a 4 or 8 pick, and
fortunately, it wasn't a serious injury. And I think what happened when it happened, my thought was they brought him back too soon because he had suffered that injury in January. He was out for 4 months. Probably should have just stayed out the rest of the season. And then prepare for the combines or for the showcases coming up, NBA workouts, and showcase what he can do there. I think there's enough film on him that already without him having. I mean, he didn't play a whole lot between January and now anyway. The existing film on him already shows what he's capable of, and you have to remember the dude's 18 years old.
Yeah, he's a kid.
6'6", and he's thick. Yeah, he's got a solid body. He's not, gangly like a lot of players.
And playing with pros.
Right.
Playing with pro players.
Yeah.
So coming into the draft. Yeah. All right, well, Raul, it's time to let the Spurs fans, or say Locked On Spurs fans, have their say. Now, you guys are leaving a lot of comments, a lot of them, and Raul and I, we wish we had all the time in the world to reach every single one. So we're going to pick 2, though, and see what you guys are talking about over the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. This first comment, Raul, kind of flows what we're talking about right now, the draft. Mm-hmm. This one comes from Jeffrey Chavez. He says, no. Now, he's referring to the Spurs making a deal for Donovan Mitchell. He goes, no. Here's where I think you'll like this part. We'll just build through the draft. Thank you. What do you think about that, Raul? Do you think the Spurs are just simply going to rebuild via the draft, or do you think they'll make a big splash in trades?
That's a great question. My gut tells me that they're going to stay put, just based on history, based on what Popovich and Brian Wright, and before that, prior to that, they've always just stuck to their guns. They haven't been. Who's the last big free agent that came to San Antonio? LaMarcus Aldridge.
That's it.
Yeah. You're not going to bring in a big splash name unless you make a trade. Donovan Mitchell, I like him. I don't know how he would fit with the Spurs.
Right.
Darius Garland, I think, is a better fit for the Spurs. He's for the next 10 to 12 years, as long as you keep him, everything's going to run through Wemby. Everything. And so you've got to have players. You've got to have players that buy into that support that, and that will be the complementing pieces that make it all work.
All right, it's a good question. Thank you for that. The next comment comes from Michael Cantu. This is gonna be a fun one, Raul. You're gonna love this one. Wemby would have did a better job than Gobert did against the Joker. What do you think about that? The Defensive Player of the Year got handled by the Joker in that series. Now, Gobert,
he did. I was watching those games with my son, and we did. That's all we just kept commenting every time that Jokic would put a move on Gobert. I was like, "Yeah, there's your Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah, there's your defensive player." And it would have been nice to see, Wemby win it. I think they figured, well, he's getting Rookie of the Year. Let's not give him 2 awards. We've never given it to a rookie, and a lot of the media that votes on that is East Coast media. And you saw it with Tim, you saw it with David. They got shunned quite a bit over their careers, just because the voters didn't see them enough They didn't see what Wemby was doing. That stuff that didn't show up on the stat sheet. How many times did you see players just adjust their shot or not even take a shot and pass the ball away because they saw Wemby in the paint and said, "Uh-oh, I'm not doing this." And so, there's a lot of intangibles that didn't show up that the voters didn't see. So, yeah, Wemby probably deserved Defensive Player of the Year. I'm okay with Rudy winning it again. But, yeah, Jokic just had his lunch with him. And then they put Towns on Jokic, and he made it tough on Jokic. But anytime that you've got 2 7-footers, I think that's, especially 2 athletic 7-footers like Minnesota does, they're going to make it tough on anybody. And I think a lot of teams are going to start doing that. That's why I see Houston taking a chance with Klingon and pairing him with Sengun. And you've got 2 big guys in the paint that can move.
And you know what, Raul? I have Houston as a team just lurking in those shadows right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
they've got a lot of good pieces in place.
You got a lot of good
once they bring it all together. Yeah.
And if they add a guy like Klingon next to Sengun, watch out. I mean, that could be a nice 1-2 punch for them. Yeah. But to be fair, Joker wrecked a lot of people. He wrecks a lot of people.
Yeah. How many points did he put on Wemby?
Like 30 plus, I think.
Yeah.
I think 30 or more on Wemby. But so no. Yeah, I think Gobert, he has the height and he's the DPOY, but he's not as fluid. Does that make sense? He's not as fluid as Wemby.
Oh yeah,
Defensively,
Wemby is an athlete we've never seen before. His ability to move the way he does for a guy that size, and it kind of looks awkward, but it looks awkward because we've never seen somebody with, that long of legs and that long of arms, move fluidly, throughout the court. It can look awkward at times, but he gets to where he needs to get to, and he's working on his footwork. Just the position. We talked about this one of the previous Locked On Spurs. Just the positioning of his feet, where they're pointed when he gets the ball, where they're pointed when he releases or when he makes a move. It's just little simple things that he, and each game, and he's got it up here, and that's what makes Wemby so special.
You know what, Raul? I would pick you number 1 overall in the draft. How about that? He is Raul Flores of the AP Sports Radio. Make sure to follow him on X at RawFlow64. He's so cool, he gets 2 ads. That's just me. I just forgot to take off an ad there, everybody. But hey, now you know how to follow him on X. Hey, what are you doing this offseason? How's everything going for you? I know Spurs are shut down for a while, but what is
good summer, just relaxing. I play a lot of tennis, competitive tennis, so just getting out on the tennis court and playing.
Got
more.
An athlete on Locked On Spurs right now.
Yeah. Right now we're their age divisions, and so right now I'm playing in an 18 and over league, and
look at you, Raul.
I'm old enough to be their grandpas, man. I'm pushing 60 this year, so and then they if I have to play singles, I'm out there against a 20-something-year-old, and sometimes I can beat them with the old man game, but they're just those 20-something-year-olds are. I know how LeBron feels trying to chase down these young kids now.
Yeah, all right. Well, Raul, we thank you for hopping on Locked On Spurs. We know we can count on you to impart your wisdom and talk to the Spurs fans, and we appreciate that as well because we got to keep the fans going. It's going to be a long off season, everybody, but it'll be exciting. We got the draft right around the corner.
1 month away from the draft, and
a month away from the draft. It gets going, and then you got Wemby at the Olympics, and you'll have the Summer League. But it'll be a long offseason before the Spurs get back in action, but we'll get you covered right here at Locked On Spurs. Again, follow Raul on X at RawFlow64. Do that right now. We thank you all for subscribing to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcast, iTunes, Spotify, where else? Oh, the YouTube page, Ken's 5 Plus app. The list goes on and on. We'll be back tomorrow. I think, tomorrow I think we have Joe Garcia coming back from Two Podcast. Yeah, he'll be joining us. and discussing all things silver and black. But for Raul Flores, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. God bless.